Hey, Madison.
Hi, Mr. Chin.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Are you tired? I got to like third period today and I was so tired and I couldn't figure out why. And then I realized it's because I got to school at 6:30 in the morning.
It's because I got to school at 6:20 in the morning.
I know. For those of you who don't know, we had this thing called Senior Sunrise. I guess it's a thing. I guess other schools do it too, where all the seniors get together and we live, we don't live. Our school is right on the water. And so we're able to see the bay, and there's like ships, and there's sea lions and people swimming. And so we gathered, what would you say, like 100 kids this morning?
That is generous.
Okay, 55.
Yeah.
Okay. There's about between 50 and 100 kids out at the park this morning, and they got there, it's like 6 something, and the idea is at the beginning of the school year, you're supposed to have senior sunrise together, and you watch the sunrise together. And then at the end of the year, you do senior sunset. You see the symbolism?
In concept, that's so wholesome.
It's cute, right? Yeah.
I sort of was just like, oh, it's just fun little get together, but when you put it that way.
It's cute, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did it, and so I was at school. I was at the park at like 6:30 in the morning, and then you go to school, and so yeah, by 9 o'clock in the morning, I felt like I had been at school for hours and hours.
Yeah, but it was actually, I enjoyed it so much. I'm usually like reluctant to go to school things because I feel like I have no friends, and I'm like, who am I going to talk to? You know, it was really fun though.
It was very chill. Yeah, I liked it too. I was such a hater. I didn't think anyone would go. I was like, is anyone even going to go to this thing?
Yeah, a lot of people were haters. I was like the first one to show up, which is so... I hated that. But they said, oh, look, our first person is here. How many people do you think is going to show up? 10? And I was like, no. The only reason why I'm here is because I have a few friends who told me they were going, and I didn't expect them to go. So I told them that I think that their outcome was going to be a lot higher than expected, and
it was.
I was right.
You were right. I was wrong. Hey, we should let people know what we're doing. So we're trying something new, people. I've been doing these super boring, dry intros by myself.
Yeah, and I'm just the star.
Yeah, no. Yeah, basically. No, it was me, and all I do is say like, okay, on this episode, we're going to be talking with this person, and people are like, why do you sound so dead? Why do you sound so boring? And I was like, okay, it's time to switch it up a little bit. So we're trying something new where I begged Madison to come on a phone call with me to record this because I don't want to do it by myself anymore. But what's interesting about this is you're not even on this episode.
Yeah.
I recorded this episode by myself, actually in my office during fourth period. So it was during school.
Interesting.
And I made the call because, the guy we interviewed, Dave Liu, had a bunch of meetings before 11 o'clock and a bunch of meetings after 12 o'clock. And so we had to squeeze it in. So I was like, okay, I'll record from my office at school. So we did it within that hour there. So I think it turned out pretty good.
I think you're a pretty fun guy. I don't know why you need me.
Well, I feel like just talking about myself was really boring. I don't know. I listened to a podcast where someone did intros like that, and she was really good at it.
I understand.
But yeah. So anyway, so what we're talking about today on this episode is, do you remember Jeremy Lin? Have you heard that name before?
Basketball.
Yeah, basketball, Linsanity.
Asian. Duh.
How old were you 10 years ago? You were 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So he went off on this streak of games where he wasn't really a starter on the basketball team. He was kind of like a bench warmer for a year and a half. And then there were all these injuries and there was all this stuff going on, and the team needed players. And so the coach said, all right, let's just put in this kid. And they put in this guy named Jeremy Lin, who was a star in high school. He was really good in high school and he's really good in college. But, a lot of people looked down on him and doubted him. In fact, I think when he joined the New York Knicks basketball team, the other players thought he was like a water boy.
What does that mean?
The guy who gets towels and water for the real players.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they were like, who is this Asian kid? What's he? Because he's not even super tall. He's tall. He's way taller than me.
How tall is he?
He's 6'3".
Oh, so, what do you mean that's not tall?
But in NBA, that's like...
What's average height?
Like 6'9".
Actually?
Yeah, like that's average.
Insane.
Well, maybe 6'7". But anyway, so he...
Oh my God.
And, and he doesn't... He looks like your cousin. He looks like someone who could be related to you or me. And he doesn't look super athletic, but he was really good. But no one really gave him a chance. And so he had this moment where he had a chance and he goes off for like 12, 13 games in a row. He just really, for those 2 weeks, 3 weeks, he's like the best basketball player in the world for those couple weeks. And so this guy, Dave Liu, he's a producer. Well, actually, he's not a producer. He's more of a businessman. But they brought him on because he was able to help raise money because no one would raise money for this documentary. And so he was really good. He's really well connected with the business world, especially Asian American businesses. So he called up his buddies. He has this amazing... Have you ever heard of what a Rolodex is?
Nope.
So in the 80s...
A watch.
That's a Rolex. So it's a Rolodex is like this spinning file where you have these cards with people's phone numbers on it, and then there's like alphabetical tab. You've probably seen one in like an 80s
artifact.
movie. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, so someone who has a lot of connections, you say, oh man, they have a really good Rolodex. So this guy Dave has like everyone's number. So when they needed money for this movie, none of the Hollywood studios would pay for it. So he would just call up, founder of Zoom, let me call you up. He's Asian. Founder of DoorDash, let me call you up. You want to help support this movie. So he'd just call up these famous CEOs and founders and, investors, and he got together money for this movie. And not just that, he got money together for other things too, like stopping Asian hate. They took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal. They took out a full-page ad and just said, hey, this Asian hate thing's real. It's happening.
Yeah.
So he got this movie made, and it's on HBO now. It's on HBO Max.
When?
Right now.
No, like when was it made? Recently?
Probably 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Maybe, yeah, pretty recently. And so they knew it was going to be like the 10-year anniversary. So what they called Linsanity was that like 12-game stretch where Jeremy Lin went off. And that was like 10 years ago. So it's kind of like a 10-year anniversary thing.
I see.
But they also wanted to tie it in to Asian hate. So it's kind of interesting. It talks about how impossible this basketball thing was, but also ties it into the current and like, you know what? Things are still rough for Asians, like
yeah.
Like a lot of people thought, man, this is a turning point for Asian Americans in 2012.
For sure.
But sometimes you ever heard this statement, 2 steps forward and 3 steps back or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people thought that was kind of what's happened with Asian Americans in America. It's not a better time for Asian Americans. In some ways, it's a worse time. So,
yeah.
So, all right. Thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for hanging out.
And yeah, if you have more ideas for shows,
I'll let you know, and we will discuss.
Okay. Cool. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
See you Monday.
Bye.
Bye. Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the Infatuasian podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you're doing great out there. We have a special guest that we can talk on any number of topics. I think with this guest, we could talk entrepreneurial stuff. We can talk about supporting Asians. We can talk about movies. We're going to talk about all of it, actually. We're going to talk to Dave Liu, who is working on so many different things. But one of the things that he did was to put his money where his mouth is, and he started up a way of talking to companies to see if they can support initiatives and nonprofits to stop Asian hate. And recently, he is a Hollywood producer, and he is one of the executive producers on 38 at the Garden, which is a short documentary film focusing on Linsanity, kind of from a different angle. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Everyone knows Linsanity from Jeremy Lin's run in the 2011 to 2012 season. But yeah, welcome to the podcast, Dave Liu. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Good to be here. Nice. Thanks for having me, Curtis.
Oh, yeah. No, we just talked a second ago about, just putting positive stories out there. And it seems like that's kind of what you're all about.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's something that I think is important for all of us to see ourselves in the stories and the narratives out there. And I don't think we see ourselves enough. And if we do, not always in the most positive light. So I want to change that narrative and that spin so that, my kids and other kids out there and, adults as well can hear about themselves or see themselves in whether it be media or business or politics or anything else. I think a lot of us are waking up to the fact that we need to take up our own space because we haven't been given that space to begin with, but we're starting to make ourselves known.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like we just talked about how you have little kids, and my kids are middle age. I mean, it's not middle age, middle school, going to middle school, and so yeah, it's this podcast. I hope it lives on, and I hope someday maybe it'll be archived in the internet, or at least where people can hear these stories and maybe hear voices and see faces that look like them and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Can we get into your origin story a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I was I'm from the East Coast originally. I live in San Francisco now, but I was born in Queens, New York. Moved to New Jersey when I was 3, and then grew up in New Jersey. In my elementary school was in a mostly black and white neighborhood. But I was the only Asian kid at that school in Somerset, New Jersey. And then my parents moved me to near Princeton, an area outside of Princeton that was, very good public schools. It was mostly Asians, Jewish kids, and so
a little change.
A little bit of a change. My grades, I definitely had to keep up my grades a little harder. But I think that growing up in that elementary school environment, I had to learn how to survive and be like, be sharp. I was smaller, not as maybe not as tough, but I definitely had to have my wits about me. And I think the only way I could survive is just my quick tongue, just being able to, it was about your mama jokes and people making fun of each other. But if you can embarrass the other kids, then you become the, alpha, or they respect you more and they don't tease you anymore. So no one wanted to mess with me when it came to insulting others, which isn't a great way to grow up. But I think it made me tougher and not be afraid to back down from a fight. So I think it was good for me. From there, I moved. I went to Philadelphia to go to college at Penn, and then after graduating from Penn, I moved out to San Francisco, where I've been for the most part of the last 20 some odd years, working and whatnot. So it all started in Queens and New Jersey.
So I got to ask, are you a Knicks fan, Nets fan, or Warriors fan? What are you now?
So I grew up watching the Knicks because my dad was a hardcore Knicks fan, and so my childhood teams were Patrick Ewing, Charles Oakley, John Starks, Gerald Wilkins, and that era of basketball where we could not get past the Bulls, and even when the Bulls weren't there, the Rockets took away our one championship. So it was a pretty miserable experience because we were good, just we couldn't get past Michael Jordan, which many people couldn't. So
it's been a long road for the Knicks fans out there.
And that's why, I actually, after a number of realizations that Stephon Marbury, Eddie Curry, and then cutting Jeremy Lin, that was the last straw. I had been living in the Bay since, 98. And when they cut Jeremy, that was for me the last straw. So I I've been watching Warriors games for like 12 years or 14 years by that point. And so I was like, you know what? I'm considering myself a Warriors fan now because I can't, this Jim Dolan, the owner of the Knicks, does not care about his fans.
Yeah.
Even when like a gift is handed to him, he just like, let it go. So, and people give me crap about leaving my childhood team, but I'm like, if you're in an abusive relationship, you gotta get out of it. Okay, it's your own fault.
You can't stay there forever. Yeah, if you stay there, it's on you.
And then they've continued for the last 10 years to continue to do the same stuff. So it's not been that different. I'm glad I got out when I did.
Yeah, and the Warriors.
The Warriors are good. So I made the right choice.
Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
So you went to B school. You went to Wharton, and then you came out to Stanford for B school. Yep. Have you always been a little bit of a hustler, a little bit of an entrepreneur?
I think when I was little, I distinctly recall having a conversation with my dad, who actually passed away when I was 25. So he didn't get to see me even go to Stanford, but we had this, like, we were looking at U.S. News and World Report when I was probably in 6th grade or 7th grade or something, and he's like, we're just figuring out what I want to do with my life. He asked me, and I was like, well, I don't want to be a doctor because I can't stand blood. And he told me, don't be a lawyer because you have to lie about so many things.
Right.
And then, he's like, and then he was a chemical engineer. He's like, don't be an engineer. You'll be working for someone the rest of your life.
You're always working. Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I was in there was like a business thing for kids, junior achievement. And I was always into business. I always came up with ideas and schemes. So guess like a hustler, like I was into baseball cards and basketball cards.
Yeah.
Selling to friends, comic books, making money.
Starts, right?
Yeah, I had a paper. My first job was a paper boy, and then I remember setting up like little carnivals in like carnival games in my basement and charging people to come in to play.
Yeah.
And getting I just got prizes or whatever from it. But I think I must have been doing that when maybe like 10 or 11. But I think for me, I thought, I told my dad, I think I want to do business. And at the time, Stanford was number 1 in the world. So I thought, okay, someday I'm going to go there. And I did end up going, but my dad wasn't around to see it. But I think that was for me. I knew I wanted to do something in business. And yeah, that's what I continued pursuing.
Yeah. So you get out of Stanford, and you've had several ventures, but currently you're with Expo. You're the founder and president of Expo. Yeah. What's Expo do?
So we started the company in 2015. It was really called Paired. But we were a labor marketplace that, if you were ran a restaurant, a lot of times cooks, don't show up to work, or dishwasher doesn't show up, or something happens, or you fire someone. You can actually use an app and book someone to come in and fill a shift for you, who has comparable experience. If they were trained at a similar, if they were a McDonald's employee before, they know how to go work the system. So we would fill in the gaps for a very heavily supply constrained market for labor. Pandemic hit, and that wasn't needed anymore. Demand was gone, and so supply. A lot of people left the industry, but we pivoted to work with larger enterprises who we knew were going to be around, and a lot of restaurants don't actually know how to tie their performance and their data back to people and knowing who their best kind of players are, especially nowadays with the labor market as constrained as it is.
Yeah.
You don't have the luxury of just kind of like letting people go. So you have to kind of help people kind of get better, and promote the people that deserve to be promoted. So we've been working on that for a little while now, and it's new. It's new to me. Enterprise software, very different what we're doing before, but it's been a lot of fun. I like, as you can tell from the different projects, I like creating something from nothing.
Yeah.
And so startups are one of those things that I love to create.
Yeah. No, I have a few friends in the restaurant industry, and I think they would tell you that's their least favorite part of the job is managing people, hiring, firing. They'd rather just cook all day, and
that's not what they sign up for. Yeah, they didn't sign up to be like HR kind of things, but that's what they are.
Yeah. And then you went on to start Hyphen as well.
Yeah.
And how would you describe what Hyphen does?
Yeah, so kind of rewind back to 2011, my first company, FanPop. I was here in the Bay, and I realized that there weren't that many communities for founders that were East and Southeast Asian.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized the only way to succeed in just about anything is your network. And it was one huge network that we didn't have, and that we couldn't. It was an advantage that others had, that whether it be getting advice on who to fundraise from, who to invest in, which lawyers to use, all sorts of things or who to hire. If you didn't have the network, you were missing out. And, there were a bunch of really, strong Asian founders out there, but they didn't know each other. And so I pulled together a dinner of about 8 of us, and just ideas. People started trading notes, and stuff started happening, and it was really beautiful to see. So started hosting these things, once a quarter or so, Lunar New Year banquets and holiday drinks and whatnot. And slowly but surely, it grew and grew to about 200 or so folks right before the pandemic.
Wow.
And it was all local Silicon Valley folks.
Yeah.
And it was specifically, it was very unfair to me that the funding ecosystem was so biased towards white male founders, and so I knew that a lot of these folks would not get funded.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I'll 2 or 3 companies get through this with a few $100,000. I created I syndicated 60 or so of my friends and asked them. They were all angels, and I thought, hey, let's help a few companies out. And I wrote a Medium post about it to encourage folks to join, and it was supposed to be just for our community of 200. But one of them, who has 100,000 followers, and she was voted Time Magazine Women of the Year this year, she tweeted it, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to get canceled because this is so. Surprisingly, it did not happen that way. I had 1 million. I had to quickly write a tweet storm in the thread or whatever, and write a LinkedIn post, and I got about 1 million views on my LinkedIn post. And founders obviously reached out, but more surprisingly and encouragingly, all these folks who want to invest came out of the woodworks. Lawyers, doctors, engineers, everyone was like, hey, this is really cool. This resonates with me. And yeah, sure, they all wanted to get into early stage investing because it's high risk, but it's good returns.
Sure.
But beyond the diversification of portfolio, I think they really felt like I put my money in a lot of places, but this is somewhere I really feel like it speaks to me. So so now today we have over 900 folks in the syndicate that are investing, and we've invested over 25 million in 80 plus companies, and all Asian American founded, anywhere from Thai founders, Vietnamese founders, Chinese, Taiwanese, Japanese, everyone. And this year over 50% are women.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I think for me that's important too, because most people don't know this. I throw out this statistic a lot, but only 2% of all VC money goes to Black and brown founders, and only 2% goes to women.
So
it's kind of
percent.
That's 2% of all the money. And so, that doesn't seem right to me. And so people have to fix it. And if this is one way to do it, for me, it's like, hey, if you give these folks the money early on, they can prove themselves. But if they never get a chance to go at that, for me, it's let's give more people the first at bat. It's just not fair. So
right. You got any names you can drop for not name brands that you can drop for us?
Oh, they're on the website. One of my favorites, which I wasn't even going to invest in consumer products, is Sanzo. Sanzo is everywhere now, but we invested pretty early on, and I'm super proud of what Sanjo is doing in terms of just representation. He's partnered with Disney to do branded campaigns for Shang-Chi and for Raya Dragon and Turning Red, and I think it's just seeing how he's brought flavors and calamansi that no one's ever heard of to the mainstream is huge, so he's really representing really well. But I think there's a ton of young companies that have done really well. We had an exit, one of our companies sold to Brex already, so things have been good, but again, pandemic's been hard on a lot of folks too, so we're trying to figure that out. But right now I'm trying to raise money for an Asian American doll company, and that's something that I know is frustrating for a lot of little girls who walk through Target and they see only white girls and maybe one black doll, but no one that looks like them. And for me, that has to change, because their confidence and everything about their world it's kind of destroyed if they don't actually see themselves on TV or in the store, and they feel like they're not included or seen.
We grew up in that era, right? Like it was Bruce Lee in the 70s and then nothing for like 3 decades.
For a long time, and until Jeremy Lin, right? But they can only name, most people can only name like 2 people, and I think it was Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan is not even American.
Right.
But those the Asian Americans that people say they can, name. And I'm like, that's just pretty sad.
Yeah. And so if you're an actor and you don't know Kung Fu, you weren't getting the job for 2 decades, 3 decades.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then another initiative that you started, or another project that you were on, was, I think we both agree that during the pandemic, it just broke our heart and broke our soul to see, our elderly, not even elderly sometimes, but just seeing Asians getting attacked for really, really no reason. And you know what? You did something about it. You put your money where your mouth is, and you started. You stood behind Stand with Asians Against Hate, and you ended up raising like $10 million from some of your financial buddies or your corporate friends. How did this start?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was, in the midst of the pandemic, and we had all been seeing them in our social media feeds. Frustrated that a lot of people were not Asian, were not even noticing this because media wasn't covering a lot of the stories.
Yeah.
But seeing from my now friends, Dion Lim and Safan and other people, seeing the constant videos of attacks over and over again, reading about them in from New York to LA to here to wherever, it was pretty scary. And I live in San Francisco, and so this is happening in my backyard.
Yeah, it's a little shocking. Yeah, I didn't think it would be like downtown SF.
Yeah, you would think it'd be somewhere there aren't that many Asians, but you're like, this is the most Asians in any city. We have a majority here. Yeah. But more importantly, you imagine that being your mom or your dad walking down the street and something happening.
Yeah.
And just this weekend, they renamed a street Vichar Tanapakdi, who was murdered over 600 days ago, when someone just tackled him to the ground and killed him. And I think that was one of the first videos that really struck a nerve with me. And then there was more and more, like acid being thrown in someone's face, people being stabbed in New York. And then I think the straw that broke the camel's back for me was Atlanta, and I was like, this is enough. Like I'm not going to take this without saying something anymore. And so I started writing an essay or a letter, an open letter, and I had some friends look at it and give their thoughts. And one of them suggested, my friend Wendy, when she suggested to buy a full page in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or something. And so we did. Eric Yuan basically paid for that, and it was awesome. And I just wanted to make us have a voice, not just to ourselves. The problem is a lot of times and one of my friends was very skeptical about, like, why would you give money to the Journal and put an ad for, like, why would you just put money towards fighting the cause? I'm like, the problem is that no one is hearing, or no one is aware that this is happening, and only our community. And just putting more money towards that it's fine, but there's something, we need to awaken a lot of people. And so by putting it in a mainstream publication with the big names of many, I'm fortunate I'm not that powerful or influential, but I have many friends who are, and having those names stand behind it. The CEO of Google, Andre Iguodala, JJ Abrams, all these, President Bush signed it. Like, when you have the weight of all these allies and make people realize who are the powerful Asian Americans in this country, they feel empowered, they feel strong, they feel like encouraged. And I think a lot of people were missing that. They felt like there was silence, there was who was speaking out on the behalf, who was there. And for them to know, is like, hey, like, there is a coalition of people out there who is going to fight this, and is they're not going to take the sitting down. This happening not even a year after George Floyd and Black Lives Matter movement, I think it made me realize, like, hey, if I can stand up and fight for the Black community, why should I not do the same for my community? And we've been taught not to speak up too much or try to rock the boat from a lot of our immigrant parents, but I was done with that. I mean, I'm just as American as the next guy. So for me, it was about making sure our voice was heard. We've contributed so much to this country, and yet we're seen as forever foreigners. We're sick of that. So basically, this was kind of a putting our foot down. And I got so many messages after that from people who were grateful just that they saw the letter, and they were thinking, why am I even raising my kid here if I'm not wanted, or if I'm people see me this way, maybe I should move back to Asia or something. But then they read the letter and they said, no, I should stay and fight. This is my country.
We belong here. All right, man. Good stuff. We're going to shift gears a little bit, and your next project, to me, looks a little different than the others, but there's a thread. There's a thread running through it. But there's a documentary produced was it produced by HBO?
Oh, no. So it was there's two producers, Trayvon Free and Samir Hernandez, who basically, they won an Academy Award for drama short a couple of years ago, and they are the producers. They put together this whole thing, and Frank Chi is the director. So the three of them approached me about financing this film, about how to pull money to finance this film. So
Yeah.
our mutual friend Nan Wang, CEO of Sleeper, said, "Hey, you got to talk to Dave. He can find the money." I mean, I already had I had the network, so I know the folks, and so I helped them kind of make this happen by basically shaking the tin cup. And so, I want to make sure this happens, and I'm friends with execs of the Warriors, and so I asked them to also get involved, and they were interested because they were Jeremy's first NBA team. So basically, it was like we helped to finance and make this thing happen.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about 38 at the Garden. It is described as trying to talk about the cultural impact and the phenomenon that was Linsanity in 2011, 2012. I think anyone who's over the age of 12 knows about this time period. It was one of these things that I think I heard Frank Chi interviewed. He said basically that no one expected. It was a miracle. It was something that came out of nowhere that no one really saw coming. But it's this amazing period that we'll talk about in a second. But do you remember, as a fan, that Linsanity period?
I mean, this is the reason why I did this, because I'm actually in the film because I was at the game, fourth row behind Kobe and the Lakers. Because I had been following Jeremy since his Harvard days. I was at Stanford already, and for the business school, and he came through during his Harvard days and was playing Santa Clara, and so I went down to Santa Clara to watch a game, his game there, and I was like, wow, this kid's pretty good, and I started following him from there. And so when he was signed by the Warriors, I followed that. But when Linsanity started happening, that first few games, like, I was just mesmerized. And so I flew out to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, lives in DC. So I flew out to see him play the Wizards when he dunked on John Wall, or dunked on the Wizards. But that game, and then I saw a few other games in the Garden, and one of them being the MSG game. So it all happened right around the time I was actually proposing to my wife. So my proposal was in Central Park, in between, I think it was like Charlotte Hornets, New Orleans Hornets at the time, New Orleans Hornets game, and then the Mavs game on a Sunday. So,
a small window to get that proposal.
A small window, but it was all like that. I was very fond of that kind of few weeks in my life. I'll never forget it. But I mean, I'll never forget the way it made me feel. The reason why I was so into it was because I never felt that feeling before, ever.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some victories, ice skating, tennis, golf. We had a few Asian athletes here and there, but the NBA was a different one. Let's roll it back a second to talk about Jeremy. Bay Area kid, we got to mention Palo Alto High School, 2005, or actually graduated 2006. They were, I didn't know this. I looked this up. The state champions over Modern Day that year.
He won the state champ.
Yeah.
California Player of the Year, but he got no scholarships. No one recruited him.
Dude, Stanford is across the street, like literally across the street.
He thought he'd get picked up, but they're not. He's Asian. Everyone knew that he did not get picked up because he was Asian.
Yeah, I mean, everyone was kind of citing the athleticism, and his jump shot was a little funky. Yeah. to be honest, but the numbers he put up, I mean, he averaged 16 points a game, 4 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 2.5 steals, 1.5 blocks. I mean, he was all Ivy League team every year. Not every year, but most of the years that he played, he was all Ivy League first team. I mean, he really put up some big numbers in high school and in Harvard. And then the NBA draft comes around, right? Yep. And again, no one's willing to take a chance on a kid, Asian American kid. Yeah. I mean, they won't say it, but there's probably some optics there, right?
Not probably, most definitely.
Definitely, they see this Asian American kid, and he's not super athletic. I think he was like 200 pounds at that time, and
Yeah, but at the combine or wherever the recruiting was, I had read that somewhere that they said he was actually the fastest player at the combine, and like no one ever acknowledged that or something. It was something. There was something that happened that really the fact, but people didn't believe the numbers.
Yeah, he had decent numbers. He wasn't like a total scrub. He's obviously athletic enough to play in the league. I mean, we know that now, right? But for some reason, for whatever reason, right, he gets passed by pretty much everyone. But Donnie Nelson, another Bay Area guy, saw him play and invited him to the summer league with the Mavericks.
Yep.
And he did well. He put up some decent numbers, solid numbers, and I think he like 4 or 5 teams gave him a D League offer.
Yeah,
but he chose Golden State Warriors, hometown team.
Joe Lacob, his son Kirk, played with him in AAU, and so Joe knew him growing up because he played with his son. So
yeah, cool. So he gets a 2-year D League contract with the Warriors. Doesn't knock it out of the park in the D League, but he hangs around. And he's waived by the Warriors eventually, but picked up by Houston, and then it was the Knicks who came in there and said, we'll give this kid a chance.
Yep.
But he's on the bench. He's on the bench for about 2 months. I think some number like he played 50 minutes in 25 games or something like that. He's averaging like 2 minutes a game. And then maybe this is the good thing, right? The Knicks are so bad.
And injured. And
there's a lot of stuff going on. And then Mike D'Antoni gives him a chance. He goes in there and he puts up like 20-something points.
Yep. Yep.
And then they said, we should put this guy in the starting lineup because we got injuries, we got bereavement leaves and stuff like that. So he gets put in. So it's February 4th, I think it was. And they put him in the starting lineup. And he puts up 25 points, five boards, and 7 assists, and then I think they start saying, "Hey, why don't we put this guy in the starting lineup every day?"
Mm-hmm.
And he starts playing, and he goes on this streak. They go on a 7-game win streak. He scored more. Like I think it's still a record. He scored more in his first 3 games, first 4 games, first 5 games, starting in the starting lineup than anyone else in current NBA history.
Yep, that's right.
That's amazing. Like something 139 points in 5 games.
Yep. No, that will not be broken. Yep.
That's crazy. Yeah, and of course, what day was that? 38 at the Garden. What day? That was February.
I want to say it was like February 12th or 10th or something like that. Yeah, the exact date. Yeah.
It's like his 4th start or something like that.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Everyone's like, "Oh, it's Kobe. He's gonna shut him down." Lakers, Showtime, right? They're gonna get rolled. But yeah, he had the game of his life.
Yep.
Still to this day, right? I think this is
electric. Yeah.
He just couldn't miss that game. It's one of those games where he just gets
he's
on
doing
fire.
moves he said he never did before, doing spin moves and things on. I was like, wow.
Yeah, and you were there.
I have video. Yeah, I have video of some of it. Yeah, it's incredible.
You want to say how much you dropped for those tickets?
Oh, I was very fortunate. I have very connected friends, so
okay.
I don't know how to say that.
All right.
I'm grateful to my friends.
Sometimes it's who you know, not what you know, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you want to get that close.
Where were you? You were right behind Kobe's bench?
I was about 4 or 5 rows behind Kobe. Yeah.
Oh man. So are you
sure? And so that's why at 15 minutes I made a sign. 15 minutes before the game, I decided to go to Staples and draw a sign up. It was I knew ESPN loves acronyms, obviously, so I did Legend in New York, LIN.
That was you.
And so I've been in a lot of videos, and I was in Sports Illustrated. I was in Sports Center for like a week. It was pretty epic. So, this whole game and this, whole moment meant so much to me because, again, as a kid growing up in Jersey who was a Knicks fan, this was the dream of this all happening. It was like a kid who went to, like a nerdy kid who went to Ivy League school, showing up at NBA and on your team, and all sorts of this stuff was like, it was too good to be true. And look, I worshiped Michael Chang when I was in 7th grade, and that was my thing. I played tennis.
Me too.
And he inspired me to play tennis, and I played in my high school team and some in college. But the NBA is something that, as a kid, it's you dream. I mean, you literally, this is like you would never imagine, because you've never seen it before.
Yeah.
An Asian person playing in the league as well as he did. And Yao Ming,
but he's 7 foot. He's a freak. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature. So this is like a normal person, playing, and he's given, showing up, and it's like, and he's blowing past, all these people. And so I think for me, he wasn't just a spot up shooter guy. He was actually driving aggressively to the rim. He was waving off other players and like his own team and other people. I was like, this doesn't happen. And so for me, I don't know that we need validation from other people, but to see the faces in that Garden that night when I was there, The Rock was there, Spike Lee was there. I mean, all these people are there.
Yeah.
And like a couple of the New York Giants were there, but you're just like, this guy is like blowing people away, and it's not just Asian people, it's everyone
Yeah.
cheering like crazy for him.
Yeah.
Kids of all colors and people wearing his jersey, and I was like, the whole world is celebrating.
It was the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was getting texts that after that game from all over the world from friends who saw me on TV, and I was like, whoa. And for us, it's like, when have you ever had, I mean, other than BTS now, but when have you ever seen the entire world go nuts over, like, what?
No,
Because this is a
2012.
miracle.
Yeah. It was it was like watching a unicorn. It was like watching something
like, what is happening?
Yeah, it was trippy, and yeah, like you said, it was African Americans, it was white people, it was the media, it was Bay Area, East Coast,
everyone.
China and Taiwan agreed on that. To get Taiwan and China to agree on anything is something, right? So they were all on board.
This is true.
So yeah, it was such a crazy.
Although they
time.
were both kind of claim him as their own, so that's different. But yeah.
But at least they liked it. At least he can bridge it a little bit.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a time period, and it's hard to believe that it's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Like
it seems like so long ago, and that's one of the things that we talk about in the film. Frank, the director, is amazing. He had worked on when the Obama administration, and so he had done films about RBG and some other documentaries.
Yeah.
And so he the story he put together was this. He wanted to do this film because him and Trayvon were talking about impossible moments, and what are the impossible moments in our lifetime, and Obama becoming president felt like an impossible moment.
Right.
And then for him, it's like for every Asian, Linsanity was an impossible moment. And so he wanted to dive into that and what it meant to us and why it meant so much. For me, the film talks about how it wasn't about, how awesome that 2 weeks was. It was the fact that we've never even allowed ourselves to imagine that anyone that looked like us could be in that position.
Yeah.
It blew our minds because it was like, this is not even in the realm of possibility for us.
Yeah.
And it's sad because all our lives, whether because our immigrant parents have, focused on security and safety, and they didn't want us to push too hard. Hassan Minhaj says in the film, is like, Asians aspire to be like middle managers at Deloitte. That's as high as we want to go.
Yeah.
For Jeremy, it was like, hey, great. He won he's on the Palo Alto basketball team. Great. Oh, he won a state championship. Great. Oh, he's California player. Maybe he'll play in college. Oh, he played at Harvard. That's good. He'll get some minutes. But you don't think it's going to go beyond that. And you wouldn't even aspire to like, oh, he's playing on an NBA team. Oh, okay, that's good. Maybe he'll sit on the bench. That's fantastic. Oh, wait, he's getting minutes. He's playing. Oh, he's scoring 30, 10 points, 20 points, 30 points. But every time the ceiling kept getting like blown away because our ceiling on ourselves and what other people's stereotypes of us we place on ourselves, we've capped how far and how high we can go because of what we've told ourselves and what other people have made us believe.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I mean, do I blame the barons and the rich guys who take advantage of Asians being laborers? Like, if you don't complain about it and you don't fight, why should you get promoted?
You're complicit.
You don't advocate for yourself. Who's going to advocate for you?
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of it is, this film is about how we have kind of undersold ourselves and we don't believe in enough of ourselves to reach as high as we possibly can. So we place limits on where our potential, and that's sad. And when we saw someone like Jeremy blow through the roof of that, it was so meaningful to like so many in the community, because they're like, whoa, like, why aren't I trying to reach higher? Like, why can't I do more? Because look at what he did.
And so this comes out, I mean, by the time this episode drops, it'll be out.
Yeah.
So why now? Why 10 years later did we come out with this documentary?
I think it was again, an impossible moment, and commemorating it with this documentary is one thing, but also juxtaposed with all the increase in hate crimes. It's about that. It's about the impossible, how the whole world was cheering for this one Asian guy, and now in this country we're being treated the way we are, and we're like afraid for our parents and elders and sisters and mothers and wives being out on the street. And so I think this is a rallying cry for us, and also a reminder. There's like, hey, why, like, basically questioning, why could someone who was so beloved for that span all of a sudden, like, can the world be so different for us here? And so I think it's hopefully, I mean, as Jeremy said, he hopes it inspires people, gives hope to people, but gives them a sense of like dignity and pride to be Asian. And just like the letter in the Wall Street Journal, I wanted to do this because I felt like this is a stamp on and a rallying cry for our community to realize our potential and not be quiet. Like there's they talk about how in the documentary during the Toronto game when he hit the game winner, you see him pushing off other players. You never see an Asian push off white, black people, and everyone's saying, I got this, and take command, and just wave off everyone. Is like, I got this, and then he hits the game winner. It's like, we don't take that chance. We don't have the confidence to do that. We don't believe in ourselves to take that shot. But Jeremy did all of that, and I think that's what is, I think for me, most striking about that moment. And I will have this documentary around to show my kids, and my boys will see this and know this was possible. So don't limit yourselves.
Right, yeah. And then you got a bunch of other people come on the film. I saw who was it? Lisa Ling's
in it. Ronnie Chang, Hassan Minaj,
Tyson Chandler.
Tyson Chandler, Iman Shumpert. So they're all in it. I think it's a lot of it is, you think, oh, like, why are these comedians all in this thing? But I think in light of all the stuff that's happening, you hear, and look, I lived through it. I went to games. I was there for that game.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew everything about Jeremy in that moment. But when you think about it, you don't know what it meant to everyone else until you hear it from them. And so hearing the perspectives of what it meant to, those folks is very interesting. It was eye-opening to me because Hassan Minaj is brilliant, and his take on it, some of the stuff, I was like, whoa, I never saw it that way. The wave off thing, I'm like, I never even noticed that.
Yeah.
But that was deep. And so I think, he definitely kind of just hearing perspective from other people really, really changed a lot. Like it added to the experience even more so for me.
Yeah, that was cool. And it gets a little serious at the end.
Yeah, I cried both times I saw it at Tribeca. I think it's when you experience that moment, the highest of highs and the moments of glory that he had, and then you jump into scenes about the Asian hate crimes.
We're
and
still there.
You hear it. It's hard not to really feel that pain.
Yeah. So we're gonna recommend this film to everybody when you get a chance. Get on HBO Max. Take a look. October 11th is gonna drop there. Did well at Tribeca Film Festival already. Anything else you want to say about this film?
I mean, this is not just for Asians. This is for everyone. Yeah, this is for anyone who wants to be inspired by a story of, against all odds, someone making it when everything else was against, the odds were all against them. That, again, like, it was every step of the way he had to fight for and get to break through barriers of doubt and skepticism. For anyone, the odds, no matter how hard they might be or how stacked against you they might be, it's possible to break through and break those odds. Yeah. So dream big. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, and that's what I want my kids and everyone else to see is like, don't let others dictate for you how high you can go or how far you can go, because only you can do that.
And so I heard he was a little reluctant, but you got Jeremy on board for this film. It took a little work.
He did well because Jeremy already did a previous movie that during the season they filmed him all the time and asking questions. But I think this time it was about other people's how what it meant to other people, not to him.
Okay.
So I think that was really meaningful because he wanted this to be like, hey, this is, I get it now. He's owning it now. There's like, this was inspirational. Like, he can't take that away, like whether he likes it or not. He's like, he didn't want to be a center of attention, but he's like, but I can't change what it means to everyone, and it meant a lot. So I want to, I want to be I am grateful for being able to inspire people, and he's owning it. And so I think it's great that he, he got on board and his family got on board.
Yeah. So do you have his phone number on your phone right now?
I do.
Dang, man.
But he's in China, so I can't really,
Is he just the nicest dude? Is he a cool dude?
He's a really great guy. He's like so down to earth. You would, he's just a really good dude. So.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to go from sitting on that at the Lakers game to now, talking to Jeremy about stuff. But I think he sees what this, this film and the platform could do, and how much, a lot of, like I said before, people in startups or anywhere in the world, they don't get anywhere with the network. So if we all work together and create coalitions and work together, we can make change.
I mean, he's an entrepreneur too. I mean, he's got some savvy, so he might need some connections from you. So it's a two-way. It's a two-way.
Everyone
street.
helps. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right, man. We end this show by talking about our infatuations, like people that inspire us from the Asian community. Dave Liu, do you got an infatuation?
Oh yeah, I forgot you're going to ask me this question. It's funny. I think for me, I've actually, fortunately, from Twitter, gotten to know her and in person. But Minjin Lee, she's a writer of Pachinko.
She's cool, yeah.
She again, like me, raised and went to an Ivy League school and was going to law school and did the whole thing. And then she started writing books. Yeah, she started writing books, and she wrote, Free Food Millionaires and Pachinko, and she's writing another book. But she's won all these awards, and she's using her platform to speak on all that's happening to our community. And like, she doesn't have to. I mean, she's working on her second book. She's teaching at Amherst. She's doing all sorts of great things, and people of all different ethnic backgrounds really love her. And for her to use the platform to bring awareness, and any chance she gets to bring awareness to what's going on, is amazing. And she's just so articulate. When you hear her, she spoke at our 1-year anniversary of the Atlanta murders in New York in Times Square. And, you can't help but feel that emotion when you hear her speak. And so, for me, I think that's probably a person. I'm lucky that I've gotten to know her. But she and how she uses her platform just really, really, I think, inspires me to want to, whatever I have, to do the most with it.
Yeah, and she's just really funny.
Yeah,
she's a cool person. Yeah,
she is.
Man, I need your contacts, man. You know everybody.
Yeah, even everyone else wants my contacts.
I know. Like I said, man. It's not what you know. Sometimes it's who you know. Right. No, she's really cool.
The more our community realizes that,
the
more power we'll have. So that's what we do.
That's great. Yeah, no, she's a good choice. Loved Pachinko, the book, the TV show.
Yeah, it didn't do it justice, but she wasn't really a part of that. So
yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, good choice. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on with us. Sure. Anything on tap for you that we need to know about? Just keep doing the work.
Yeah, keep doing the work. I'm thinking I might want to. My next project, I might work on a kids book.
Okay.
Because I have two boys, and I feel like I read all these books to them. I'm like, man, there needs to be some other lessons they learn here. So. Like I said, I like creating things out of nothing, and this is yet another project. But I think it's again the Jeremy story of why not?
Yeah.
Like, why can't it be me? Why can't I write a book? Why can't I make a movie? Why can't I do? It's like,
right.
Always ask yourself why not? Because if you always asking yourself why, then you have what direction or conviction do you have in life? If you feel convicted about something or you feel passionate about something, give it try. You can only fail. And that's the worst that can happen. But you already failed if you didn't even start.
Yeah. Why not us, man?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, man, thanks so much for coming on. It's been real fun chatting with you. I'd love to pick your brain about so many other things, too. So we'll have to have you on another time.
Second after, so no problem. Great to meet you, Chris. Thanks so much.
All right, cool. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye, Dave.
Bye.